Jay Ryzik here, and today we're going to take a look at Manjaro XFCE. We are looking at the release candidate for version 0.8.10, 64-bit. It just came out. Let me pull up the Manjaro blog here. May 25th, the release candidate hit the website. Really nice looking distribution too. I used Manjaro in the past. Definitely a very nice distribution, and what I'm seeing here, there's enough good stuff here that would keep me using this distribution. If you're not familiar with Manjaro, let me pull their website back up. Here's the main page for their website, and there's various versions, or not, I shouldn't say versions, but desktop environments of Manjaro. Let me pull up some of the different distributions here. You got the XFCE version, which is what we're going to look at today. You've got an OpenBach edition. We've got a KDE edition. The minimal net, which is you're basically putting down the base code itself, and then from that point on, you can add your whatever desktop environment you want and all your own applications. So if you want a kind of a start from scratch type distribution, or kind of go through that process, that's a good way to go. And then we've also got the various community editions. There is of course Gnome, there is Cinnamon, there is Mate, all those different flavors, I guess you could say, of Manjaro. Now, let me close this up. Manjaro is based on Arch, but it's a little different than, like, say, Antegros, which if you didn't see my review of Antegros, I reviewed that a week or so ago. I'll throw a link up on here so you can go see that if you like. Difference here is where Antegros, all the repositories pulled directly from the Arch repositories. Manjaro does it a little differently in that it pulls from its own repositories, and basically what they do is they take the Arch repositories and they make sure that it's fairly stable and not going to goof up their distributions, and then they put it on their own repositories. Now, so how would I say this? You're not quite as cutting edge as pure Arch, but at the same time, it's far more stable. And that's something that, if you saw my review of Antegros, and I talked about all the problems I was having, none of that this time. Everything works great. I've had no crashes, no glitches of any kind. The only thing, and it wasn't really a problem, but for running my screen recorder, there were some codecs that I had to add, which wasn't a big deal. Everything worked. After I opened it up, I saw that I didn't have the codecs that I need. I added those. Boom, we were good to go. And actually, it was a couple of GStreamer plugins that I was missing. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a stock Manjaro installation, or almost stock, I should say. I have added Simple Screen Recorder, which is what I record my videos with, and then also GUVC Video, which is right here, the webcam right here. That's what you're looking at right there. I added those, and then of course those plugins that I mentioned earlier. Other than that, this is basically a stock Manjaro installation. Oh, and I did add down here on the panel, you can see I added a little memory and CPU monitor just so I could keep track of what we're using. And as you can see right now, we're running around 850 megabytes of RAM, and that's with running my screen recorder, the video recorder, all that other stuff, so I can run this video. So really no complaints on that. Baseline was 425, 450, right around there. So not quite as light as Ubuntu 14.04, but still fairly lightweight. There's other distributions that'll get you a little lighter on memory, but I think that that XFCE gives you that kind of nice balance between plenty of features while at the same time being fairly lightweight. Manjaro has a real nice, as you can see right here, this welcome screen that'll show on startup. You can see you can click here so that it does not, or you can unclick it so that it doesn't show on startup. But some real good documentation, links to how to build it, forums, chat room, mailing list, the wiki, new features, all that kind of stuff. And I will tell you that having used Manjaro in the past, the community support is freaking unbelievable. There's not only is a fairly decent sized community, but everybody really seemed, let's help each other out and that sort of thing. So the community support is great. Basically, if you got a question that you don't something you don't understand or whatever, if you go to the forums and the chat room, you're going to get it solved. I've never had a Manjaro problem that I couldn't get solved by going to either chat room or forum. There's always people in the chat room. Same thing with the forums. There's always, if you can't find your problem already fixed, more than likely within a day or so, there'll be replies to your question, and you can get it fixed that way. So let me close that up, get that out of the way. I think the next thing I like to do is just kind of take a walkthrough of all the applications that come along with this. It's fairly light on the applications included, but at the same time, I think they've covered the necessary bases. And of course, you can go and add whatever it is that what other applications that you need. So no issues there. Probably easiest thing to do is we'll just pull up the menu here and kind of go through everything one by one. As you can see, this is XFCE, and they are using the whisker menu, which is awesome menu. One of the things that I like about it, for those of you that know me, you know that I like keyboard launchers, and I usually use the mouse when I'm doing these videos, just because then you can kind of follow and see where I'm pulling stuff up and that sort of thing. But nice thing is, like, if I click the super key, it pulls up the whisker menu, and from there, like, let's say I want to pull up I don't know, my file manager, which is Thunar, and as soon as I start typing, it pulls it up, and I could hit enter, and it will pull up Thunar for me, which is pretty cool. So you can work faster by keeping your hands off the mouse and keeping them on the keyboard. So that's really nice when productivity is at the top of your list. So let's kind of walk through these all these different applications we got here. Start with the accessories. You have an application finder, which that's something that you can add to the taskbar. For those of you that are familiar with XFCE. You've seen that before. A bulk renaming program. Clipman, which is a clipboard manager. Very nice program if you've never used it. Menu editor for your menu, and let me pull that up there. Yeah, it is Menu Libre. Very nice menu editor, so you can shift stuff around, put stuff in different categories, that kind of stuff, rename stuff. Very nice thing. Alright, where were we at? Okay, they got a simple screenshot application, task manager, which gives you a more detailed breakdown as opposed to the little taskbar thing that I've got going on, because this will break down per application, how much juice you're using. But for my purposes, for what I wanted for this video, the little taskbar deal does just fine. So your task manager, and then of course, like I said earlier, we got Thunar for our file manager. Very nice file manager, not a whole lot of features, but it's got the basics covered, and it's easy to work with. Unfortunately, it does not have my favorite feature in a file manager, which is dual pane, but this is a lightweight distribution. Anyway, so that finished up accessories. Under the development, there's a variety of Qt4 development applications. Under internet, for our browser, we've got Midori. And if you've never used Midori before, it's lightweight, it's fast, but I found that how would I say this? It doesn't always render things the way you want it to. There's some sites you'll go to it and it just does not like what it sees, and it doesn't pull anything up. Personally, I am a big fan of Chrome and Chromium. If I were to keep this as my main distribution, I would add one of those, just partly because I have a bunch of Chrome extensions that I use, and I use them on a daily basis, and I can't add them with Midori. Their version's not available in Midori, so it kind of ruins things for me, but they definitely help with my productivity. So I'd be switching to Chrome. Anyway, where were I? Right there we go. Okay, and then there's also the Midori private browsing. For email, they have Siflead, and Siflead is nice and lightweight, but once again, I would personally switch to a different email client. If you want to stick with something that's lightweight, I would use either Geary or Clawsmail, one of those two. And actually, I'll throw up links on here I've done reviews of both of those. Both are real good options. My personal preference of those two is Geary, but to each his own. But Clawsmail is another good lightweight one. Let's see what we got next here. Multimedia, of course, I already talked about. I added the GUVC view. Parole Media Player, so for playing all of your media, and then our volume control, and then a test utility, of course the screen recorder, we already talked about that. Xnoise for organizing. Here, let me pull up Xnoise. And basically it's a organizer for various media, and when you first turn it on, it will go and basically search out throughout your file system, see if you've got any music or movies or whatever, and then throw it up on here so that you can play it and do whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, and then we've got under Office, we've got a document viewer, LibreOffice installer. And I saw this earlier when I was first looking things over, but I figured I'd leave this until after I ran the video. So okay, you get to pick what you want to install. So I would like to install all of it. Integration with Gnome. Select languages you want. For me, English US is all I need. Root password and execute. Okay, so our LibreOffice install is complete, and you can see here we've got LibreOffice open. Let's open it up and let's see what version we got here. Okay, recent version, and let me take a look here. Yeah, they've got all the icons added. Then this is one of my pet peeves with the Ubuntu build of LibreOffice is they don't include all the icons. I don't know what's up with that, why they do that. I don't get it, because for me personally, here is how I like my LibreOffice setup. I like the cipher icons, and then I get rid of all those toolbars, enable the sidebar, and then under Zoom, go to page width, widen this up just a little bit. Let me move the viewer out of the way so you can just see. And that's how I like to work when I'm in LibreOffice. It's good, nice big wide area to write. You got pretty much almost everything that you'll need on a regular usage. You've got over here in the sidebar, and then just leaving the base menu up at top. And everybody's different. A lot of people will stick with the toolbars up top and whatnot, but this is how I like it set up. With a widescreen monitor, I think that's your best usage of screen real estate. But yeah, that's just me. Anyway, okay, so we did the LibreOffice, and we installed all that, and then we've got all of our settings, applications down here. Most of it is the typical stuff for XFCE. So if you've used any Ubuntu or any other XFCE distribution, you'll be familiar with all this stuff. Desktop here for switching backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. They got not a huge number, but a couple of different background wallpapers. Of course, you can upload more yourself. The list of different stuff that you can show on your desktop. Alright, so besides our display manager, we've got we can configure our file manager. So how you want different things displayed, date display, maybe you want the date displayed all digitally or like that, or whatever works for you. Different icon, do you want bigger or smaller icons on your left-hand pane? Behavior, do you want single click, double click? And then some advanced stuff right there. And then you can, we got a keyboard settings here, different thing. Do you want to enable key repeats, that sort of thing. And then right here is the default keyboard shortcuts. You can add more, you can change these, whatever works for you. And then here, if you got if you need to change what your keyboard layout is, that sort of thing, you can do that from there. Where were we? For your login window, GDM is what they use with Manjaro. There's other login windows that are used. I think they used to use one called Slim. Nice thing about GDM, it allows for a variety of customizations and it's fairly easy to customize. You can see we got a couple of different backgrounds that can be chosen from here. You can upload your own image, solid color, change from the default message, set for auto login, timed login, all kinds of different options. Default session. So if you've got, let's say for example, you also had the Gnome desktop and I don't know, Cinnamon. Just for kicks and giggles, you could go and from here pick what the default login would be. So pretty cool stuff. We got a Manjaro setting manager. There's not a whole lot here. You got language packages that you have installed, what language you're using, user account, some hardware detection stuff. There's not a whole lot here, just because it's most of your other settings are already in the XFCE settings. Menu editor, we already looked at that. Mouse and touchpad, network connections, how you want your notifications to display, panel customization. And if you're not real familiar with XFCE, as far as manipulating the panels and that, you ought to take a look at my Intro to Linux series, because I use Ubuntu 14.04 in that series, which it's the same XFCE version as we're looking at here. So if you've never gone and manipulated the panels, added panels, move them around, that sort of thing, I'll throw a link up on here so you can go and see that series. And yeah, I had an entire video where I talked about nothing but working with the panel. So check that out if you're not real familiar with working with panels. Oh yeah, our preferred application is next. If you have multiple web browsers installed, which do you want? Same thing with your mail reader, utilities over here, file manager, which terminal emulator, all that sort of thing. And okay, so we got to that. Privilege granting, session and startup. So display chooser on login. Yeah. All kinds of different stuff for your setup. What do you want as a splash screen, or you don't have to have one at all. What applications you want to auto start. Launch Gnome services, launch KDE services, all the, what do you want to start? When do you want to start on startup? I guess is the moral to take away from that one. Window manager, and then from basically this is okay. What theme do you want to run? Font. Do you want your titles aligned in the center on your windows, that sort of thing. Keyboard, we've already talked about some of this kind of stuff. Click to focus, focus, follow mouse, window snapping, all those kind of tweaks for your actual windows as you open them. And this is something, and it's kind of because XFCE has added stuff as time goes on, but you've got a separate window manager tweaks. And to me, it would make sense to just roll the features of that into your window manager, and just put it all together, as one application. And hopefully down the road they do, just to simplify things. Okay, managing your software is a little different in Manjaro if you are used to working with the Ubuntu Software Center or another Ubuntu based distribution that is a software center. We don't have that here. What we've got a package manager. It's called Pacman. If you are a Synaptic package manager user, you'll be just fine here. If you're used to the software center, you're going to have a little bit of a learning curve. But adding software, searching for software, all that kind of stuff, this is where you're going to work. Let me pop it up the full screen. So let's say that we wanted to add Chrome to our computer. So Chrome. Click the search. Now it found Chromium and a couple other things for Chromium, but not Chrome itself. So it means it's not in the Manjaro repositories. But now here's the cool thing that you can do. We can search in AUR, which stands for Arch User Repositories. Basically, these are repositories set up by community members. So let's say you go through all of the work to, you download this such and such tar file, and you go through getting all the dependencies and all that kind of stuff. Basically, you can set up a repository in AUR so that somebody else doesn't have to go through all the work of building that package. So they can go to the AUR and just download it the way that you've set it up. So you've got this huge community of people that are using an Arch-based distribution and are loading their software up on the AUR. Now, sometimes that piece of software ends up being adopted by Arch and makes its way into their regular repositories. Other things, stuff that maybe not used all that much, it remains in AUR. So, but let's do a search in AUR now. And as you can see, there's a whole lot of stuff in AUR that gets pulled up for Chrome. Now you might have to do a little bit of looking since there's so many options here. There we go. Google Chrome with auto updates. And you can even look it up on GitHub. Maybe. Doesn't look like it's pulling it up. Ah, there we go. It's just lagging a little bit. Chrome Updater. But, like I said, basically from here, then you would just, install it. And, from that point, you're going to go and click Apply Changes. And it pulls down all of your dependencies, everything that's needed to build that package, and boom, ready to go. Put in your password, and the process begins. What else did I want to talk about this distribution? And I know what it is. So you're looking at this, and you say, okay, why would I want to use this over, say, Ubuntu 14.04 or some other XFCE distribution? And that would be a good question, because first of all, Ubuntu 14.04, great distribution, no complaints about it. Probably the biggest kicker, at least for me, why I would go with this instead of say Ubuntu 14.04 is that your base code, is Ubuntu. It is based on Ubuntu, and this is based on Arch. Instead of having the every 6-month release, or in the case of looking at the LTS versions, every 2-year release in the Ubuntu series, Manjaro, like all of your Arch-based distributions, are on a rolling release. Now, what does that mean? That means that as updates roll down the pike, they don't hold them for a new release. You get updates little bit by little bit by little bit. So you're constantly, I wouldn't say constantly updating your system, but it's not like with Ubuntu where you wait, say, 6 months for the new distribution, and then if you're going to do the upgrade, really to play it safe, you should go and do a clean install. You don't have that situation with Manjaro. You get you install it, boom, you never got to install it again. You're done. Updates roll down the pike and you install the updates, but you don't need to do that clean install. Now, some may say, well, you can do an update on Ubuntu. Say you're going from 13.10 to 14.04, you can just update it. Well, yeah, you can, but every time you do an update, you're running the risk of crashing your system. Really, it's best to do a clean install, which is, you can keep your home folder and everything that's in that home folder, but basically replace everything else, and that's the safest way to do it. Not that you can't do a quote-unquote upgrade, but I've seen a lot of times where systems crash because of doing that update. It's far safer to do that clean install. Anyway, long story short, with not only Arch-based distribution, but anything that's a rolling release, you don't have that issue, because you're getting these little itty-bitty upgrades just as time goes on. Well, that about finishes things up for this video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a big old thumbs up. Some stuff I'm working on that you'll be seeing in the future. I'm continuing with the Intro to Linux series, so watch for more videos in that series. And right now I am playing around with, actually I got a couple things I'm working on. One, I've got Ubuntu 14.04 on another partition of this computer. So we're going to do, first I'm going to do a review of Ubuntu 14.04, and then I am going to install LXQT onto that Ubuntu distribution, so we can take a look at that. And if you're not familiar with LXQT, LXQT is basically the people behind Razor QT and LXDE kind of teamed up to come up with basically a QT version of LXDE. So I'm going to install that onto my Ubuntu installation, and we'll kind of walk through that and take a look at that, see how that works out. Anyway, hope to see you here again for another video. Be sure to subscribe so you can keep getting this great content. And thanks a lot. See you next time.